ICT can be a means or a medium of information as well as in assessing the learners. I am Liani Jane Esabatayo. On behalf of my groups, may I welcome you all to our topic, Technology Supportive Assessment in Science, Benefits and Challenges, Barriers and Enablers in Technology Supportive Assessment. At the end of the lesson, the students shall be able to learn the following outcomes. First, define how technology supportive assessment in science. Second, determine the subtopics of technology supportive assessment as appropriate tools in teaching science. Third, learn how the benefits and the challenges, barriers and the enablers technology supportive assessment. So, without further ado, please lend your attention for us in a while as this following teacher discuss the specific topics. Good day, I am Teacher Liani Jane, but you can call me Teacher Yani. My assigned topic for today is about ICT in assessment, types of assessment, and how these 5 assessments can be integrated in technology in learning, developing the skills and the competency of learners. There are many forms or there are many approaches to assessment with emphasis the student's learning along with the product of learning. Development in information communication technology has thrown open numerous possibilities for assessing students' learning and providing feedbacks. Assessment is the process of identifying, gathering, interpreting students' learning. Assessment involves using wide variety of method and tools to evaluate, to measure, and document students' learning. Assessment basically helps one to improve learning and sets directions for ongoing teaching and learning process. ICT and assessment discuss about the basic of assessment practices and explore how these various technology tools can be integrated effectively for assisting students' learning. This means that ICT can be used to develop tests such as computer-based tests, which is a digital version of the traditional paper-based test. Computer-adapted tests, which they might change their form and responses to input form from the learner being tested. Um, ICT-based assessment may also incorporate simulation, interactivity, and constructive responses format. Sophisticated ICT program can open-ended performance, measure learners' reasoning processes, skills, and examine how learners go about thinking through problem and even provide feedbacks to the learners being developed. My discussions are the types of assessment. Assessment can be classified into numerous types or approaches based on their purpose and for which it is designed. Assessment can be classified as follows: the formative, summative, diagnostic, authentic, and performance. Let us define first the formative assessment. Formative assessment provides feedbacks and information during instructional processes while the learning is taking place and while the learning is occurring. The example of formative assessment is a drawn concept maps that represent their understanding about the topic. The second one are the summative assessment. Summative assessment takes place after the teaching is being complete and provide information and feedbacks that sum up the teaching and the learning process. The example for these are the end of term or the midterm exam. One are the diagnostic assessment. This assessment can help you identify your students' current knowledge about the subject their seed skills, and their capabilities that clarified misconception before teaching takes place. Yes. Um, Knowing the student's strengths and weaknesses can help you plan what to teach and how to teach it. The example for diagnostic assessment is the quizzes or the activity. The fourth one is the authentic assessment. The term authentic assessment describes the multiple forms of assessment that reflect students' learning, achievements, motivation, and attitude on instructionally relevant classroom activities. It emphasizes what students know rather than what they do not know. It requires students to develop responses instead of selecting them from predetermined options. Authentic assessment usually include tasks to students to perform by a rubrics with their performance, which is being evaluated. Best example for this assessment is an assignment that requires students um, solving problem and getting creative activities. The last one are the performance assessment. Performance assessment is one for which students required demonstration that they have mastered specific skills, competencies by producing something into another one. Example for this are the developing a thorough analysis or an essay, conducting a laboratory investigation, creating a portfolio, and completing an original research paper. In general, these five assessments can be integrated as a tools in assessing the learners. And by the help of information communication technology, it would be easy for us future teachers as well as emphasizing the learner's capacity to actively engage these flexible platforms that being ethical as a means or the medium of knowledge, which is the technology.
Now, let's discuss about the role of ICT in assessment. Technology has a vital role to play in effective and efficient assessment of learning. Modern technology offers educators a variety of new tools that can be used in classroom. Technology can help teachers assist their students in learning as well as their performance in the classroom. The use of ICT in assessments involve the use of digital devices to assist in construction, delivery, storage or reporting, student assessment tasks, response, grades, or feedback. And the examples such as computers, that can be used in our individual home, the mobile phones or the smartphones, the laptops, and many more. Hi, I'm Jeffrey Lacan, and today I will be discussing to you about the current trend in assessment or e-portfolio. First, let's define what is e-portfolio. An electronic portfolio, also known as e-portfolio, digital portfolio, or online portfolio, is a collection of electronic device or evidence assembled and managed by a user, usually on the web. Such electronic evidence may include inputted text, electronic files, images, multimedia, blog entries, and hyperlinks. E-portfolios are both demonstration of the user's abilities and platforms for self-expression, and if they are online, they can be maintained dynamically over time. So now, what is portfolio assessment? Portfolios are viewed both as respective tools to document students' academic progress as well as organize digest of artifacts documenting professional development. Portfolios includes personal reflection on an embodiment of outcomes. Other uses of portfolios include program exit assessment, demonstration of competency, achievement, and documentation of personal growth and social development. There are three types of e-portfolio. First is the developmental portfolio, second is the assessment portfolio, and third is the showcase portfolio. Developmental portfolios. These e-portfolios are typically created by a student as a part of a course as a way to demonstrate learning and the learning process. These e-portfolios or portfolios are often shared with other students to elicit peer feedback. Developmental portfolios also support the idea of formative feedback as an essential part of the learning process. While showcase e-portfolios, these portfolios are primarily a way to demonstrate or showcase the highlights of a student's academic career. Assessment e-portfolios played a substantive role in the assessment of our general education competencies. Using both formative and summative assessment, feedback was provided to colleges, departments, and instructors on the quality of evidence students use in their portfolios to demonstrate our general education competencies.
Good day, everyone. I am your teacher, Mari Phoebe Ansulog, and I will be discussing the criteria and choosing the appropriate assessment tools with the use of rubrics, checklists, and rating scale. As a future educator, how will you assess your future students? Let me define first what is assessment. So assessment is an action or an instance of making a judgment towards someone or something. So in education, the term assessment refers to a wide variety of methods or tools that educators use to evaluate, measure, and document the academic readiness, learning progress, skill acquisition, or educational needs of a students. So learning increases when students are actively involved in the assessment process. So students do better when they know the goal, see the model, and know how their performance compares to learning outcomes. Now let's move on to what is assessment methods. Assessment methods are strategies, techniques, tools, and instruments for collecting information to determine extent to which students demonstrated desired outcomes. So assessment method is anything that we use to assess. So like what I said, it could be a strategy, a tool, or a technique that could help us attain our goal in achieving the target outcome. So a selection of tools involves a process to obtain detailed information and the need to keep the process feasible and manageable. Feasible means attainable. So, the most important aspect of choosing a method is ensuring that the method will provide the evidence needed that determine in which the goal is achieved. So let's move on to the following may be considered in choosing appropriate assessment tools. There are three. So first, goals of assessment, methods of assessment, and the interval and giving assessment. So I will be discussing each one of these three. So let me discuss first the goals of assessment. It is important to consider first the goals of assessment before choosing assessment tools because the goal is the reason why you are doing an assessment. Also, it is a guide for you to have or to consider an assessment tool. So having a clear goal in assessing is important as it serves as the reason or motivation, and it also serves as your guide in assessing something you wanted to achieve. So second is the methods of assessment. So there are two methods of assessment, the direct and indirect method. So I will be discussing more deeper about this matter later on. Now let's move on to the number 3, which is giving interval in every assessment. So interval in giving assessment is necessary because when you are using the same strategy every day, your students will surely be bored. And it is not also necessary to give assessment every time you finish discussing a topic. It will be fine to have a recapitulation before you start your discussion. It is okay having assessment once a week or every other day. So, One of the challenges for beginning teacher is to select and use appropriate assessment techniques that's suitable to the learner's needs. So during teaching, teachers not only have to communicate the information but also continuously monitor students' learning and motivation in order to know whether modifications have to be made. So monitoring students' performance is necessary because by that you'll know the strengths and weaknesses of your students, so can make an adjustments or you can improve your way of teaching. So I will be discussing the direct method and indirect method. So let's go first to the direct method. So direct method is any process employed to gather data which requires participants to demonstrate their knowledge, behavior, or thought processes. So direct methods involves looking at the actual samples of the students' work produced in the program. Examples: examination, written assignments, oral presentation, performances, internship supervisors rating of student skills, portfolios or e-portfolios, capstones projects, thesis and dissertations, etc. Now, the indirect method provide a useful supplement and check on the findings from direct measures. So it allows students to reflect upon their knowledge. Indirect assessment is gathering information through means rather than looking at the actual samples of students' work. Example: student satisfactory survey, surveys of students and alumni, exit interviews with graduating students, reflective essays, data on a placement, and other measures of post-graduation performance. Now let's move on to the characteristic and selecting appropriate assessment tools with their convention of ICT-based assessment. So first, measure the desired level of performance or the levels of satisfactory, productivity, efficiency, and students' performance. Number 2, cost-effective in terms of effort, time, and money. So in short, the tool that you wanted to use must be worth it or can give things that you need. Number 3, useful that will be produce results and provide information that can be used in making decisions to improve student learning. Fourth is the reasonably accurate and truthful. So the characteristics of the tool that you must choose can provide the accurate and truthful data. Fifth, dependable, consistent responses over time. So the tools that you must choose must be consistent over time. The last is the evidence of being ongoing, not once and done. It is consistent as well. It is connected to the number 5, so it must be ongoing or it must be consistent over time. So according to Wu et al., the rapid development of ICT has provided teachers with digital platforms that support learning and teaching. According to Drigas and Karaoke 2006, online tasks assigned by teachers will assess the collaborative problem-solving construct and the 5 strands. The 5 strands are participation, perspective taking, social regulation, task regulation of students' learning, and lastly, the knowledge building skills. Moreover, ICTs provide the means for the explicit design and implementation of the individualized or collaborative problem-solving task through teachers' interactive scaffolding and immediate feedback supplied towards learners. So now I will be discussing the 3 main assessment tools that we could be used in assessing students. First is the rubrics. So rubrics is a set of criteria used to determine scoring for assignment, performance, or product. So this can be used to score many kinds of written assignments or exams, papers, projects, speeches, or e-portfolios. So the main purpose of rubrics is to assess students' performance. Then teacher may observe the students in the process of doing something like making their projects, online drills, tutorials, and many more. So there are two types of rubrics, the holistic and the analytical rubrics. So I will be discussing what is holistic rubrics. So holistic rubrics is an assign of a single score to a student's overall performance. Usually have competency levels that define the level of performance. So the quality of work or performance at each level described by a number of indicators, which is the 1 to 4 point scale. So the next is analytical rubrics. It describes and scores each of the task attributes separately, so not like the holistic rubrics. Then it uses a narrow and broad scale. It may or may not assign points to each criteria. So now I will be moving in the checklist. Checklists usually offer a yes or no format in relation to a student's demonstration of specific criteria. This is similar to a light switch, which the light is either on or off. They may be used to record observations of an individual, a group, or a whole class. Next is the rating scale. Rating scale allows teachers to indicate the degrees of frequency of the behaviors, skills, and strategies displayed by the learner. So to continue the light switch analogy, a rating scale is like a dimmer switch that provides for a range of performance levels. Teachers can use rating scale to record observations, and students can use as a self-assessment tools. So there are two types of rating scale, the numerical rating scale and the graphic rating scale. So I will be discussing the numerical rating scale. The numerical rating scale is a sequence of numbers. It is assigned to a descriptive categories. The rater marks a number to indicate the degree to which a characteristic is present, while the graphic rating scale is a set of categories describe certain points along the line of a continuum. So the rater can mark his or her judgment at any location on the line. To sum it up, it is important to note that teachers should use a variety of assessment methods in a classroom. Assessing students is how the teachers are able to evaluate students over material they are learning in the classroom. Therefore, it has to be done fairly in accommodating every student's interests and needs. That's why it is important for teachers to use a variety of different assessment methods in a classroom. Hope you learned something. Thank you.
Good morning, class. By the way, I am Teacher Genevieve. Today, I will be tackling about the principle for the appropriate use of technology-supported assessment. There are 7 principles for the appropriate use of technology-supported assessment in science. So let's down to the first principle would be the helps clarify what good performance is through goals, criteria, and standards. So according to Sadler 1989, identified 3 conditions necessary for students to be able to regulate their own learning and to benefit from teacher feedback. They must possess a concept of the goal or standard being aimed for in a learning or assessment task. They must be able to compare current performance against that goal or standard, and they must be able to take action to close the gap between current and desired performance. For this, principle 1 is that one compliance way of verifying task performance in, in a learning context is to publish online descriptions of assessment criteria or standards for the different levels of achievements. And this most of criteria for complex tasks are difficult and are more often to see and unarticulated, even in the mind of the teacher. So, hence, there is a need for complement online criteria. One approach is to create an online discussion space and encourage students to spend time before beginning the task to discuss the requirements and criteria. So we all know that when we have a experiment or any test or etc., we should always go to the instructions or criteria about that topic. So in order for us um, to have a knowledge or the background on what we are doing, so that our work would be um, aligned to that criteria or standards of the topic. So, on the principle 2, facilitates the development of reflection and self-assessment in learning. So, one of the most effective ways to develop self-regulation in students is to provide them with many opportunities to practice regulating aspect of their own learning, according to Pentrich 1995. In the online context, there are many ways of organizing for reflection and self-assessment, and many tools to support this process. So, the most common practice is to create and administer online objective tests and quizzes that can be used by students to assess their understanding of the topic or area of the study, just like we have to do with our report. We before we start our made of our presentation, we should have our objectives to that topic. So, while such tests to do provide for a degree of self-regulation, this is a low level as the students are not involved in defining goals for self-assessment and might often guess the answer in the same type of test. For example, MCQS. The other way to direct and involve students in monitoring and regulating their own learning is through portfolios. The construction of a portfolio requires that students reflect on their achievements and select work that meets defined standards. In addition, students might be asked to write a reflective essay or keep a reflective journal in a relation to their learning, so that the students will know or the students have or gain knowledge to that topic or lesson. On the principle 3, delivers high quality feedback information that helps learners self-correct. In online context, much work has been carried out to assist teachers in giving feedback to students. According to Denton 2001, has developed an electric feedback system that enables teachers to construct feedback reports to students. These reports contain general comments, standards about the specific elements of the work, or the personal comments to the individual. The standard feedback comments present a time of 7 features of this system. They can be selected by a number or a form of drop down list and attach a student work. By doing this quality of feedback, the students will have or know where they are lack or where they improve more, so that the students will have the background or knowledge on what we will do the next time. So, on the principle 4, encourage interaction and dialogue around learning with peer and teacher-student. Many researchers maintain that dialogue is an essential component of effective feedback in higher education, according to Lorillard 2002. Yet, mass higher education has reduced opportunities for individualized teacher-student dialogue. This is an area where pedagogical approach supported by technology offers significant potential. In this area where new pedagogical approach supported by technology offers significance, have shown how feedback dialogue in AC tasks can be enhanced using software systems that support peer commenting and assessment, so that this will have a AC for the teacher and students to avail the learning or the topic. And then by using this system, students are able to reach array of comments from their peers, which they can then use to make improvements before submission, or some of the systems able students to contribute to the marking of each other essays. Involving peers in commenting in marking not only enhance dialogue without increasing teachers' time, but it also gives students more control over their own learning. Indeed, giving students opportunity to practice in assessment from the marketing perspective is central to developing in the students the capacity to regulate their own learning. So the other approach to this one is that to increasing dialogue around assessment tasks is to have students engage in a group task where they are encouraged as part of the task to give each other feedback, so that each of everyone has a rule or feedback the other. Principle 5, encourage positive motivational beliefs and self-esteem. This self-regulation, motivation, and self-esteem are inextricably linked. There are more motivated students are, and the higher their level of self-esteem, they are more likely it is that they will persist, they regulate their own learning. Students' motivation is determined by whether they perceive that their own needs are being met, by whether they see value in what they are doing, and by whether they believe they have the ability to succeed with reasonable effort, according to Misi et al. 2006. So, each of the feedback principles in this increase can be implemented in a ways that are motivational. For example, in a ways that increase the students' sense of control over their learning through a self and peer feedback, or that giving students experience of success through opportunities for testing or retesting. Or these ways in which technology might support this process have also been discussed. For example, greater control over learning can be given to the students by enabling more flexibility in assessment requirements with online tests available at times and place to suit learning needs by providing opportunities for students to manage, record, and evaluate their own learning through portfolios. On the Principle 6 provides opportunities to close the gap between the current and the desired performance. According to the BOUD 2000, maintains that the only way to tell if learning result from feedback is for students to make kind of response to complete the feedback. So this is the most often forgotten aspect of formative assessment. Unless students are able to use the feedback to produce improved work through, for example, redoing the some assignment, neither they nor those giving the feedback will know that it has been effective. So, if students are become better at regulating and managing their own learning, they develop the ability to make the use of feedback they receive, so that the things they do will improve because they take the feedback as a positive one and make it things in order to attain a good assessment. Students really have opportunity to direct apply feedback, especially in the case of planned assessment. Students rarely have the opportunity to direct apply feedback, especially in the case of planned assignments. Invariably, they move on to the next assessment task soon after feedback is received. While a prominent role in the learning, according to BOUD 2000, also greater emphasis need to be given to providing feedback on work in progress, for example, on EC, structures, plans for reports, sketches, etc., and to engage students in planning strategies for improvement. On the last principle would be the provides information to teachers that can be used to help shape the teaching. So, good feedback practice is often discussed in terms of providing good information to the student about learning. However, it is just important that teachers have a good information about the students' progress in learning so that they can tailor their teaching in relation to their students' needs. So this requires creation of learning environment that provide rich and ongoing data about the students. And this is also a good to have the teachers to have a background about their students, because it is also one of the key that the students will learn, or the teachers will have a background where he or she go with her or his report, or if he or she deep down the assignment or etc., so that the students will not force, or this is oftentimes used by the teachers, that when they before proceed a topic, they will have a quiz for the students, so that the teachers will have a background about the students' capacity to that topic. In order also to the teachers to measure the the capacity of the students on how or where the teacher will start. That's the end of my topic. Thank you for listening and have a nice day, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. I am Jensen Joyce Gabisay Tapayan, and I will continue our report. My assigned topic is about benefits and challenges, barriers and enablers, and technology-supported assessment. Technology-enabled tools has a big impact in supporting teacher evaluation and assessment. It provides new avenues for self-reflection, peer reflection, and feedback. So I have here listed some benefits and technology-supported assessment. In terms of timing, technology-supported assessment is embedded in learning, which means through embedded assessment, educators can see evidence of students' thinking during the learning process. These are woven directly into the fabric of learning activities students undertake. In terms of accessibility, technology-supported assessment is universally designed, which means that everyone who uses technology and the assessment in the teaching learning process has universal access. Example, teachers have the access to communicate with the other schools on how they use technology in terms of assessment through seminar workshop, webinars, and LAC session. In terms of pathways, technology-supported assessment is adaptive, which means that the students can easily adapt the changes in assessment with the use of technology, since technology is very known and accessible. In terms of feedback, technology-supported assessment is real-time, which means the feedback is on time. Educators will be able to see, evaluate, and respond to students' work more quickly than the traditional assessment. It can also increase the efficiency of the process of giving feedback and allowing educators more time to focus on areas of greatest need. In terms of item type, technology-supported assessment is enhanced, which means technology-based assessment allow for a variety of question type beyond the limited multiple choice, true or false, or fill in the blank option that have characterized traditional assessments. Technology-supported assessment also improves authenticity and alignment with learning outcomes, helps to clarify marking criteria, spreads the assessment load for staff and students, improves student engagement and promotes deeper learning, readily available statistics on student performance, and increased flexibility. Despite the numerous uses and benefits of technology-supported assessment, there are challenges, difficulties, and limitations, which are the following. Limited accessibility and network connection. We cannot access at all times because there are times network problems and poor internet connection will occur. School with limited technical support, meaning some schools have very limited technical support. They do not have the opportunity to use this kind of assessment. Lack of effective learning. Despite the fact that technology-supported assessment promotes deeper learning, it becomes a challenge when students lack effective learning, which means they have ineffective learning, which could be due to the teacher's teaching strategy being ineffective. Limited time. Limited time is a challenge in technology-supported assessment because it takes a long time to prepare an assessment. Teachers need more time. Lack of teachers' competency. This means not all teachers are capable and competent enough to use and to make assessment using technology. Barriers and enablers in technology-supported assessment. These are the implementation factors of possible barriers: time, expertise, access, resources, and support. When we talk about time, it refers to lack of time to plan for technology integration, prepare integrated lessons and support materials, practice, develop skills with evolving technology, maintain and expand personal and professional technology skills. I have also listed the possible solution. Release time and incentives for technology adept teachers to serve as peer mentors for technology integration, release time for teachers to attend technology conference, seminars and workshops, regular faculty meetings devoted to technology integration, spare time for after-school or weekend technology efforts. Expertise. It refers to lack of teachers' expertise with personal and professional technology skills. Tradition of inadequate and or inappropriate technology training opportunities. The possible solutions are skill development opportunities which are contextualized, developmental, and frequent. Training which offers a variety of approaches to teach personal technology skills. Training for strategies to teach with technology in the classroom. Access. It refers to lack of uninterrupted, on-demand access to hardware, software, networks, and other technologies both in school and outside of school. Possible solutions are staff unequipped at technology center just for teachers that is even open after school and weekend. Allow students and teachers to borrow palatable technologies already equipped as those available in school. When we talk about resources, it refers to lack of fiscal resource to provide personal and professional technology training, access, infrastructure, and budget for continuing costs of technology utilization. The possible solutions are enlist active support for technology efforts from parents, organizations, and the community. Identify dedicated personnel to write government and private grant proposal for technology. Support. It refers to lack of value attributed to the effort required for the efficient and effective implementation of technologies within the classroom. Lack of environments which foster a spirit of risk-taking, experimentation, and which anticipate struggles and setbacks with all implementation efforts. Possible solutions. Collaborate with all stakeholders to develop a vision for technology utilization by teachers and students. Include technology award within teacher appreciation efforts.